Hello, welcome. My name is Dakota James, and I'm here to talk about polychlorinated biphenyls, which I believe are the pollutant in our waterways that are killing our fish and having them wash up on our beaches. Give a little background, chemical structure, and how this pollutant is harming our fish and possibly us. Polychlorinated biphenyls, or PCBs as they're commonly referred to, are a man-made industrial chemical compound used from 1930 until they were banned in 1977 by the EPA. They do not dissolve in water, they are fire resistant, they do not conduct electricity, and do not degrade. All of these characteristics make them highly valuable for industrial applications such as electrical, hydraulic, paints, pigments, and plastics. They were produced under the trade name Archlor by Monsanto, and they are one of the most common pollutants in the world today. The chemical makeup of PCBs are two main carbon rings surrounded with 1 to 10 chlorine atoms. The placement of the chlorine atoms on the outsides of the rings designates which compound it is. There are 209 possible conjugates. Not all of them are toxic, but compounds with 40 to 60% chlorine are the most toxic. And the basic makeup lacks functional groups, which makes it a stable compound, which then relates to the characteristics to make it wanted for the industrial uses. Here we have a few examples of a few PCBs. See how the chlorine atoms are arranged on the outside. So my theory is that industrial infrastructure, either on coastal or upriver, is then leaching these PCBs into our waterways. And because the PCBs do not dissolve in water, they settle in the sediments and then are consumed by animals, and then through biomagnification work their way up the food chain until eventually they get to us. Here's a image of that, biomagnification. So the impacts of these PCBs on humans and animals. Short-term exposure to these PCBs don't have any negative health effects. It's the prolonged exposure that this prolonged exposure can affect many of the body systems, including digestive, immune, reproductive, and nervous system. But the biggest worry is for exposure that can cause developmental issues in young children, fetuses, and breastfeeding mothers. The EPA lists the polychlorinated biphenyls as a probable carcinogen, and studies have shown that it does cause cancer in small animals. Impacts within the cell. The PCBs are attracted to the aryl hydrogen carbon protein receptor, which this receptor plays a role in immunity, development, and metabolism regulation. So that's where the PCBs are negatively impacting those, but also in the uncontrolled cell growth in small animals as they err in mitosis by causing cancer to these small animals. In this example, we can see in the fish mortality of the fish that are washing up on our beaches. This PCBs are likely getting into it, causing uncontrolled cell growth. This uncontrolled cell growth can be anywhere in the body, but is typically in the fatty tissue where the PCBs are stored. And the PCBs cause a mutation in the gene code, and then once the errors in that gene code affect the receptors responsible for proliferation, which is the new cell division, then that animal is considered cancerous. So, in closing, PCBs are toxic in animals and humans and are commonly introduced into our environment. Industrial sites and proper disposal of consumer products are the main contributing factors, These PCBs cause many negative impacts of bodily systems and cancer in small animals, and interferes with our oral carbon receptors and inhibits the mitosis process, which in inhibiting the mitosis and then affects the uncontrolled cell growth, which then affects the fish and is killing off the fish. So in turn, polychlorinated biphenyls leached into our water systems, consumed by our fish, maybe consumed by us if we are consuming our fish. We have to do something about it.